Welcome to the Reconnect Factor, the podcast of the Power Play Reconnect Experience. I'm your host, Ruth Haskins. Let's start with the quote. Cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you, and to give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude. Now, it's easy for us to talk about the things that we're grateful for when everything is going well. But today we're going to take a look at the flip side of gratitude and why we should be grateful, as Ralph Waldo Emerson has stated, for all things, because everything has contributed to our advancement. Bottom line, life is not all roses, and it's difficult to see that the difficult things are reasons for gratitude. Sometimes while we're experiencing the good things, we are all bright and we're really cheerful. But when things take a downhill turn, it is easy to give in to discouragement and even bitterness. We want things to work out the way we imagined they would. But really, it's during these really difficult times that if we accept them, they become the soil from which roses grow. So, I suppose it takes the experience of decades, really, to approach this understanding of gratitude. In our materialistic society, gratitude is often attached to what we can see, feel, taste, and touch. And it's often associated with our accomplishments and the accolades we receive from others, even those we don't know. For instance, those people who congratulate us through our social media accounts. We find sometimes that the more intangible list of things to be grateful for are the life lessons we learn, especially the difficult ones. When we can learn to be grateful for all things, suffering included, then we understand the meaning of gratitude. I'll give you an example. Suffering can actually be a basis for gratitude even during the experience. It is the mindset that matters. Make a note of that. It's the mindset that matters. Austrian author, neurologist, and psychologist Viktor Frankl viewed suffering in this context, and I quote, "If there is a meaning in life at all, then there must be a meaning in suffering. Suffering is an ineradicable part of life, even as fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. The test then for all of us is how we respond to the suffering in our lives." And mind you, this is from a man who was shifted from one Nazi concentration camp to another. So with this thought in mind, is it possible to learn to be grateful for all things? Is it possible to put our difficulties into a broader perspective? For all that he experienced, Frankl was able to return to civilian life, not unscarred, but with a deep gratitude that allowed him to see the capacity for positive human growth out of the worst of circumstances. So here's a thought. We continue to live with the COVID-19 pandemic. As an older one, I am aware of the impact this event continues to have, especially on the senior global population. In my arena, I see those who have succumbed to the isolation. They're still trapped in their four walls, fearful of the next great event. I have seen older ones die physically from the virus, from suicide, and die from death on the installment plan from alcohol and other different addictions, including food addiction. So though we attempt to live with a hopeful view of the future, there is no guarantee as to what the future really holds. Many people of all ages around the globe are waiting anxiously for the next great event. We are not unaware of the disruptive and chaotic conditions affecting the human family. With that thought in mind, can we take another page from Frankl's experience? One of the things that he noted while he was in prison, and what he did was to observe those who survived. His observations showed him that the survivors were those who maintained hope. They placed that hope not on external things, but on the things that internally were more important. For example, for some, it was a family member that they knew had escaped to safety out of the Nazi regime, and they had the hope and desire of reuniting with them at a future time. Others had a spiritual hope that strengthened them so that they could endure. These hopes went beyond appearances and the current conditions they experienced. From this, Frankl was able to note the prisoner who had lost faith in the future, his future was doomed. With his loss of belief in the future, he also lost his spiritual hold. He let himself decline and become subject to mental and physical decay. We live in a crazy world. Is it possible for us to hold faith in the future as individuals as we watch the world somersault into deeper and more malevolent chaos? Can we refuse to allow the decline that will lead to our individual mental and physical decay? Really, this was the unknown battle, the silent war that destroyed many of the human family during the COVID-19 pandemic, and, by the way, continues to do so. Yet, where is our point of strength? Really, it begins with gratitude for all things under the worst of circumstances. When we learn to be grateful for all things, we begin to gather spiritual strength that can lead to hope beyond appearances and circumstances. We can come to value the truth that who we intrinsically are is untouchable by any human hand or mind. It is our mindset, not that of another human or the world at large, that matters. Our mindset matters, and gratitude for all things, even suffering, creates our powerful mindset. Let's take a spin on the usual gratitude list. Rather than list all the good things that you are grateful for, let's take a look at the top 5 difficult experiences in your life. Write a summary of when, what, and how the event occurred. You might want to start with your experience of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is just a thought. We all have something that in these last few years that has affected us deeply, and we just are having a really hard time still, many of us, trying to cope with all the changes that have happened. And looking at the world the way we do, and seeing all the chaos. We need so much to be able to find a hope to hold on to, no matter what is going on in the world, because all of this is going to go on regardless. So for today, this is more than just a thought. This is Ruth from the Reconnect Factor, the podcast of the Power Play Reconnect Experience. Thank you for listening.